Let's welcome him in. Here he is. Michael Tellinger, how are you?
Hello, Sonia. I'm very well. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And it's lovely to meet you. And just listening to you the last few minutes of your broadcast, I tell you, we sing from the same hymn page. I'm really excited to be talking to you.
Well, which is why when Julia approached me and said that you're going to be coming to the UK, I believe in July, would I like to talk to you? I was like, yes. When can we do this? Absolutely. You are, of course, a scientist. You're an explorer. You're an author. You're a lecturer. You are many things. You are the founder of Ubuntu. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Well, it was the Ubuntu movement, but that, in the last 10 years, it has now transitioned and become known as the One Small Town initiative.
Exactly. And you're an authority actually on many things. And I find your lectures absolutely fascinating. I love the whole idea about how we have no idea about our history in many respects, because so much of it has been hidden from us. And so where to start with Michael, or as I like to call you, Michael Big Questions Tellinger. And so really, where to start with you? Why do we understand so little about our ancient history?
Well, guess who pays the bills? It's like in everything else, in the research, who pays for the research facilities to operate? They obviously, the big funders that fund the research labs are not going to share the discoveries that they make with the mainstream, because they want to use it to maximize their profits for whatever the tools and gadgets are that they create, and technology or cures for disease, the big pharma research labs. You know the story. So whoever funds the research controls the narrative and controls what information they like to share. So whoever is funding the research of archaeological digs and discoveries will only release what they want to share. And unfortunately, archaeology has also been used, and not just archaeology, but history and anthropology and discoveries of fossils and so forth has been strictly controlled by those who want to, I guess, control the narrative of who's who in the zoo, and in South Africa, for example, is a great example. So during the apartheid years, the apartheid government was using archaeology and history as a tool to benefit their narrative. And the last 30 years, the ANC, the what we can now openly call the Marxist Communist ANC government, has been using history and Southern African history to benefit and promote their narrative. So it's a shocking state of affairs. Our universities are the ones that do the digs. They go out with the professors and the archaeological teams and students to do these digs. And guess who funds those digs? The digs are funded by certain institutions with big money and donors and funders that have a certain agenda in mind, and they will then stick to their agenda and only release the information they want to serve their agenda. So this is why we know so little about our human history. But as you know, every month, every week, almost on a daily basis, new mind-boggling discoveries are being made of ancient civilizations that are jaw-dropping, that peel away the veil of some mysterious cover-up, that open our minds to what the ancient civilizations were up to, what knowledge they had, what technology they possessed, what structures they were capable of building with that we can't imagine building today.
No.
Yeah. So that's why we know so little about our ancient history.
You just reminded me of a quote. I'm going to paraphrase you very badly, but you'd said that they expect us to believe that many of these kind of megalithic statues were created with hammers, pulleys, and ropes, right? I think that's something you've said, right? And it does seem really farcical, because when you look at them, you look at the pyramids or whatever. But give us some sort of insight into that, because obviously it feels that we've actually been subject to brainwashing and propaganda since the start of time, that we didn't need legacy media. Many years ago, they were already creating a false narrative for us.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It seems that this cover up about our history and our origins and so forth goes back a long time. This is not something new. I'll give you an example. So the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because of my discoveries here in South Africa, the ancient ruins of South Africa and Southern Africa, because it actually extends into Zimbabwe, Botswana, some parts of Mozambique, and also even further north into Zambia. So for many years, there's been some low-level awareness of what we call the stone circle ruins of southern Africa.
Right.
And they've been spoken about very low level. Not much was written about it. And when I discovered it in 2005, actually, I first discovered, or 2004, these stone circles of southern Africa, and it blew my mind. And then I realized that they estimated there were about 20,000 of these stone circle structures and ruins. And I thought, wow, that's a lot. Well, a year later, by mid 2008. When I moved into the area where these ruins are and started the research, proper hands-on, physical, walking through the ruins, doing my own research, within 6 months, I realized that there were at least 100,000 of these ruins. Then I started to do some numbers and counting and actually calculating how many of these ruins are there. Is it 100,000? Because I wanted to prove it. I didn't just want to thumb suck it. I wanted to be scientific about it, right? And I'll never forget, I actually called up, at one stage I called up the retired head of archaeology at Wits University, which, as you may know, is the big university in South Africa, the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. That's where I graduated with a degree in pharmacy, a Bachelor of Pharmacy from the Wits Medical School. For many years, it was one of the best medical schools in the world. All the doctors that come from there are now scattered all over the world, by the way, right? So I phoned up the retired head of archaeology, and now his name escapes me. I can't believe it. And I got him on the phone.
Michael.
And I said to him, how many of these stone circle ruins do you think they were, or they are, in South Africa? And without blinking or hesitating, he said, at least 100,000. So I got very excited. I went, oh my goodness, because that's what I think. I think there are about 100,000 ruins. His name is Revel Mason. And I said, Revel, but we have a problem here. We have an anthropological population problem. Because if we ascribe, because in those days we all believed, including me, that these stone circles were actually built by people as dwellings for humans or animals, right? So if we ascribe 10 people per ruin, if it was dwellings for people, and we have 100,000 of them, then we have a population of 1 million people at some stage in the past in Southern Africa. And there was a bit of silence on the phone, and his response was, well, then there can't be 100,000 ruins. And in that moment, I went, oh my God. He just he went straight into the box of mainstream academia.
Right.
Ignore the physical evidence, ignore the ruins don't exist. There they are, but they don't exist, because the history books tell us that there was never a population of 1 million people in the past that could have done such structures or needed such structures. And that's when I realized it's pointless talking to the academia about this. And I continued doing my research. I counted the stone circles with all the best Google Earth photography and aerial photography that I had. And I arrived at the staggering number of 10 million stone ruins.
That's insane. That's actually insane. So we are talking about ancient civilizations here, aren't we?
We're talking about ancient civilizations that I can go into long discussions about this, about how I know this, how far back they go. I can tell you they go back probably 300,000 years, possibly further back in time. And these stone circles were not dwellings for people or animals. They were constructed with very different intention in mind. And this is where all the mainstream academia always
can't cope with it.
They just cannot cope with this. What we have absolute overwhelming evidence is the tools and the artifacts that I've been collecting from among the stone circles since 2007 many of them are unquestionably tools of that are used for highly advanced tools that either generate energy or focus energy or harness energy. And the stone circles themselves, each one is an energy generating device, because we know that the original structures were constructed with no doors and entrances. They weren't made for people or cows or animals. So there are no doors and entrances. It's fully intact walls that vibrate and put out sound frequencies. And those vibrating sound frequencies that create a spiral that move around the walls of the resonating stones are creating magnetic fields, and therefore the moving magnetic fields therefore create electromagnetic fields. And we've measured amazing frequencies from sound, magnetic, and electromagnetic fields coming out of these walls. I can talk about this for a week because I've got almost 20 years of research that has completely ignored my
I've
mainstream
got
academia.
hair standing up on my arms, which I love. I absolutely love, because you're absolutely right. The problem is that we are living in a time where it's all a lot about compliance, and academia is no different to that. And I come through legacy media, so I know exactly how it works there as well. And they want to keep these ideas. They gatekeep these ideas. They don't want to contemplate that the Anunnaki would have existed, or Sumerians, for example, right? Or that anything that is outside of our scope. Do you feel, and now obviously we're living here and now, and I like to think that I'm a decent, intelligent individual, but do you think that we are considerably inferior to what has perhaps roamed the earth before in terms of our intelligence? Have we been dumbed down so much?
I think it's an interesting question. I don't think we're inferior. I think that we've just been manipulated and dumbed down.
Right.
I think we do possess the capacity and the knowledge that we could utilize, that some of these ancient civilizations clearly had. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail. Everything is based on toroidal field, cymatic, sound frequency, vibrational energy. Everything to do with ancient cultures. The moment you start studying that from the creation of the universe and ancient texts, it always comes down to sound, resonance, frequency, vibration, and the sound of the creator. So everything is based on sound, resonance, and frequency. All ancient technology is clearly based on that, which, including, like I mentioned already, the stone circles create energy by vibrating the frequencies of the earth, and therefore they create energy. So I don't think we're inferior. I think we've just been manipulated over an extended period for thousands of years now, and especially the last 200 years since the Industrial Revolution, and just prior to that, some of the most remarkable research and inventions have come out. If you just think about the inventions that in healing, from Royal Raymond Rife to Nikola Tesla and all his knowledge of frequency and generating energy, and others, John Keeley, and I haven't dealt with that for so long now because I've been so focused on one small town for the last 10 years that I used to do these lectures all the time. But it's very clear that all that incredible discovery that happened in inventions from the mid 1800s right through to the mid 1900s and beyond, all that technology has been suppressed. The cures for disease have been suppressed. Yes. Yeah, fact. It's crazy.
Absolute fact. And the reason I wanted to talk about that, sort of intro our discussion, because I want to talk to you now about gold. I want to talk to you about banks. I want to talk to you about the power of the Vatican and the corporation, the City of London, as one example. But the reason that I reflect on that is because you have an extremely rich history. And I think it is important to observe and acknowledge that this is not your first rodeo. You've been around a long time. You will have been attacked for some of your ideas because they do not fit into the status quo. But bit by bit, I do believe, and I agree with you, we have been manipulated. We have been dumbed down. We're not inferior, not at all. But people like you and I, we've broken free from that cage, and we want to see something that is bigger out there that impacts us. So I do just want to briefly talk about the Vatican. Obviously, the big news this week regarding the Vatican is the new Pope. Does it make any difference, do you think?
No, not really. It's just a new gatekeeper, that's all. Yeah. One goes away, another one comes in. That's what can be said about most of the governments around the world. They are manipulated by shadow figures in the behind the veil, the puppet masters that manipulate those that come into the mainstream as politicians, as so-called elected leaders of our governments, that are just marching to the beat of the puppet masters behind the screen. It's pretty much the yellow brick road. It's a Wizard of Oz scenario, right?
So painful. We have a regular guest called Godfrey Bloom. I don't know if you're familiar with Godfrey, but he's absolutely brilliant in his understanding of gold. And in fact, a number of our viewers have followed his advice on gold, gone out and purchased it, and made a decent amount of profit from it. And gold is something that you talk about. You talk about, you have certainly, the power of gold. And you also talk about how gold is in the Bible even before they mentioned Eve. That is how central gold is. Tell us, why is gold so central to humans?
Yeah, this is again one of those subjects that some people are not ready for this
Right,
information. And
right.
it's, I've been very careful, especially when I talk about one small town, trying to present solutions for the madness and present a solution that I want everybody to embrace it. I don't want people to be scared of me or the message. So I've had to censor myself in some ways. And I hate that. I hate censoring myself because that's not the kind of person I am. But when you talk about solutions for the world, you've got to be careful that you don't come across as a raving lunatic. That some people that that say, "Well, yes, we want a solution for our town." Oh, but aren't you the guy that talks about the little green men and aliens and all this crap?
Right.
So how can we trust you about a solution for our town if you believe in aliens or the Anunnaki and this kind of stuff? So it's been a very interesting ride for me because and people even attack me on social media and on email, direct emails where they attack me. They say, we love the stories about the gold or the ancient civilizations, but leave the money and leave the banking alone, and or vice versa.
Right.
We love your solutions for the world, but stop talking about the Anunnaki because you're driving people away. And I'm just going, well, the two are inextricably connected.
Right.
And that connection is gold. That's exactly why it is such an important subject and thread and a link. Like you said, I make it very clear in my book, Slave Species of God, that before Eve was even fathomed or created from Adam's rib, the narrator in the Bible says that he wants to take Adam to the land of Havilah, where there is gold. And you go, wow, that's amazing. Why would God want to take Adam to the place where there's gold? And then you start to read about the Anunnaki and the stronger links and similarities between the creation of Adam and what the Anunnaki texts or the Sumerian texts talk about, the Anunna gods, how they created the first Adamu. And you start going into areas that some people are not ready to face.
Right. And you take them through the Overton window before they're ready to go there. I get that. And I work with that all the time. Even as a legacy media journalist, I was always very aware not to take people too far. I was always the outsider because in legacy media, they have to have an outsider in order to give some kind of impression of balance. Right. So
Yes.
I was their useful idiot in many respects without realizing it. And but you're absolutely right. And the thing is, I think certainly with maturity, I've reached a point now where I actually don't care what people think. And to a degree, I get it, because I also get when people go to me, you cannot talk about geoengineering because it makes everything else you say look ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, but it's happening. So what do you want me to do about it? Right. And so I'm now forced to I've started to learn how to block out what other people say, because at the end of the day, you have to listen to your inner voice, don't you? And you're very much one for that. You don't strike me as somebody who is easily swayed by the opinion of others. You're very self-possessed, Michael.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm influenced and inspired by opinions or feedback and so forth. If somebody shares new information with me that I don't have, I love it because I want to explore it, research it, and go, wow, this is fantastic. This is a piece of the puzzle that I was missing. But I'm certainly not worried about attacks or name calling or those kind of things. It's just it's water off a duck's back. I've been exposed to it for 20 years now, and it comes with the territory. If you do what I do, you're going to be attacked, and that's okay. God bless them. Have a nice life.
Exactly. And as well as I do, that part of the problem is our banking institutions, central banks, and you have absolutely gone after them. Tell people.
Okay, first of all, you mentioned gold and the origins of gold, and it's important to people and our obsession with gold. Please understand, anyone that's watching this, our obsession with gold comes from the creation of the human race, or the appearance. Let's use the word appearance of the human race, just for want of not creating an argument. So the appearance of the human race, or the Adamu and so forth, is directly connected to the human obsession or to the obsession of gold. The Anunnaki were obsessed with gold. All the ancient Sumerian history, the Sumerian texts that talk about the Anunnaki, their gods, they were obsessed with gold. And all the gold that was mined by the Anunnaki, the obsession was passed on to the slaves that were mining the gold. So our obsession with gold comes from the Anunnaki quest for gold. It's absolutely unquestionable.
Right. It's at the base.
Yeah, if people don't know that, then they have no idea about anything, right? And then the value of gold became valuable because it belonged to the gods. All throughout history, and ancient discoverers, when they arrived in India, in the Americas, even South and even North America, where they arrived, all the ancient civilizations had gold, vast amounts of gold. And whenever they asked the explorers, the European explorers asked these natives, where does the gold come from? Who does it belong to? The answer was always, it belongs to the gods. The gold belongs to the gods, right? And modern people don't know this unless they've gone and researched this. Our civilization, not right now, we don't know that. And then you start seeing the origins of money. Now, again,
Right.
please, those people that, I don't want to take up the whole interview about lecturing about this, but if you want to know about the origins of money, please get my book, Ubuntu Contributionism, which is also the foundational document for the One Small Town initiative, the model of the One Small Town community. It creates prosperity and abundance for its people forever, not just temporarily. And read the Ubuntu Contributionism book so that you learn about the true origins of gold, the quest for gold, and the origins of money that goes back some 4,000 BC. And the earliest, or it could be even further back in time, when we throw these numbers around and these dates around, you've got to throw them around with an open mind, that it might be very different from what we think. But most of the time, it's actually further back in time than we imagine. And we see where the first origins of money comes from the temples that were created by these first royal priest kings. These royal, when it says in the Sumerian text, it says, and then the royalty was lowered to earth from heaven, and the first priest kings were appointed by the gods. And these first priest kings suddenly owned all the land in the world, and that's where royalty, the origins of royalty, comes from. This
Right.
is spectacular information. And then these first priest kings, over thousands of years, because they apparently lived for thousands of years, according to these Sumerian texts, they built their temples, and from their temples they started to issue these little clay tablets, and they asked people to bring in their gold and their silver, and in return they gave them a little clay tablet that said, John Smith just brought 5 pieces of silver into the temple, and here's a piece of clay tablet that says that we owe him 5 pieces of silver or so much gold. That's the true origins of money. And the Rothschilds just perfected that by turning it into promissory notes we use today. And they were very, very clever, very, very smart. And they then went around the world since 1760 or whenever it was, and or 1670 or whenever they started, their shenanigans with their central banking. And they perfected that ancient practice of promissory notes, negotiable instruments, and bills of exchange, and they perfected that to the point that we're now stuck with that, and we think this is just the normal way things are supposed to work, and we've all been fooled.
Yeah, but you're not somebody who's prepared to just accept the status quo, though, Michael. So, and you're right, we don't have a huge amount of time to unpack all of this, but just tell us briefly what you have attempted to do in order to change that system. Obviously, One Small Town is a huge part of that, isn't it? It's you stamping. You're saying this is a way to proceed forward for a better society. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yes, yeah. Having all this background knowledge, understanding the origins of money, which is the primary tool of enslavement. So we've got to realize that we can't fight the system. The current puppet masters control everything. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And I'm sure many of your viewers will know what we're referring to here. So you can't fight the system. As Buckminster Fuller very cleverly said, if you want to create a new system, you don't fight the system. You simply create a new system that makes the existing system obsolete. And that's what we're doing. We're laying the foundation with One Small Town without having to fight the system, fighting the banks, fighting the government, or opposing anyone, without any violence, opposition, or conflict. We use the current system and what I call the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. We make everything work for us, work for ourselves. We unite in small towns as a community. And it doesn't have to be everybody in the small town. It can start with a small number of people. We agree to cooperate, to collaborate, start working together towards a common goal, fixing our town, providing the things that we desperately need. By working together, each one contributes a certain amount of time a week. In the One Small Town model, it's 3 hours a week that every member contributes. It's a very low number. Everybody's got 3 hours a week. And with this labor force that we choose to contribute ourselves, so we're not creating jobs for ourselves, we're creating our own labor force, because then with our members, we then decide what kind of agriculture we're going to do for ourselves, how much food do we need to feed ourselves, what kind of businesses can we start, write the business plans, and so forth. So it's a fully integrated community development and upliftment program that we've created over almost 2 decades now, the One Small Town Initiative. And it's just a beautiful, simple system that allows that gives the people of small towns the tools that they need to work together in a way with a blockchain platform, with their own reward system, the Infinity token. That's a private membership reward system. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's traded in open markets. It's the most stable community token in the world. All of this has been put together so that we can turn our small towns into places of prosperity and abundance. Just think about this. If you have a town of 5,000 people and everybody contributes 3 hours a week, we suddenly have 15,000 hours of our own free labor that we're contributing. 15,000 hours. That's what is that? That's a week. That's 60,000 hours. When my math's letting me down here, 60,000 hours a month of free labor.
Right, the accumulation of it all. But here's the thing, Michael, let me just throw this in the mix, because some of the people, like many of our viewers, are all about opting out of the system. Trust me on that, right? Absolutely, because we realize that it is not for us, unquestionably. But one of the comments which strikes me here is that, but humans are too lazy. They're too selfish to get involved in something like this. There has to be more than us just being that way, right? You're meeting people who are much more inspirational, who are prepared to give their time and energy. So, but do you agree that there is a block in terms of humanity being selfish?
Yes and no. I don't think humanity is selfish. It's just we've been so brainwashed and we've been so pushed down and demoralized and depressed.
Like dog eat dog.
Yeah, it's so, and the whole rat race of cold, horrible capitalism that, I've got to get to the top of the pile. Yeah. I'm gonna lead this industry. I'm gonna destroy all my opposition. Well, that's not a solution. Destroying opposition means you destroy other people's lives. You destroy lives, people's families. That's not what we want. We don't want to destroy each other in the chase for financial success and capitalist success and success in a company. So everything that we do at the moment is really fighting ourselves. What the One Small Town does, we take a step back and we say, hold on, we don't want to fight each other in our businesses. We want to cooperate. So instead of having 20 bakeries in the town, let's have one bakery and we actually own it as a community. So when we bake bread, we're baking bread for everybody and we're exporting the bread to whoever wants to buy bread from us. So it's just a subtle adjustment. From competing against each other, we choose to cooperate and collaborate. And that changes everything. At the moment, this.
Yes.
We are at times that people are desperate all over the world. It's not just third world countries or South Africa, where we have probably the biggest unemployment in the world, courtesy of our communist government for the last 30 years. It's despicable what they've done. And people are just desperate. They just want a way out. Most of the options that have been given the people have not provided solutions. So people are by nature very doubtful and very suspicious. So you've got to be very clear with the message that when you approach the people in the community, say, this is what we're going to do. It's not, I'm not the guy that's driving it. You're driving this. This is your initiative. You choose what you want to do. We're just providing the platform that allows you to do this, so that if somebody wants to invest money into your businesses as a community, the money isn't going to go missing in somebody's personal bank account, that there's accountability, there's a tracking system, so if somebody has contributed their 3 hours to the community, so they can get the benefits from all the businesses.
Right.
So that's the key thing here. So once people know that there's actually a plan and there's a robust platform and a blockchain that manages all of this, it gives them a lot more trust and faith that we're actually taking this very seriously. The last 3 years we've spent building our One Small Town platform and the blockchain. that is quite spectacular for any individual or community to try and do this, to manage their businesses, or distribution of funds, or checking who's clocked in for their shift and who hasn't. It'll cost you millions to do that. Well, we now have that, and any town, anyone, anywhere in the world can sign up and start using the One Small Town platform to start the One Small Town initiative in their community. But we need to help the people understand what to do and how to go about it. It's easy for me because I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. I know exactly what to do. If I arrived in your town today, I know exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow morning. What's the first phone call I'm going to make? Who are the first people I'm going to meet? What are the first steps I'm going to do to start getting the foundations in place? New people and new ambassadors don't know that. They still need to learn this. And this is why I'm coming to the UK, coming to England to do these lectures and these workshops, because they don't work as well like this, remotely. It doesn't work that well.
No, I hear you. And I love that. And because obviously people are saying, how can I participate? Well, very simple. Yes. I've already put a link in the description to One Small Town. So that's vital. So let me just look at this. Saturday, 5th of July. Now you are, of course, you are the king of the long lectures. You can lecture for hours on end. How long is this one for?
So there are two workshops, 2 full-day workshops. They start at 9 in the morning and go to 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon. The first one is in Buxton on the 29th of June, and the next weekend is the 5th of July, and that one is in Dorking.
Yes.
So if you're sick and tired of what's going on in the world, if you're sick and tired of seeing your little town falling apart month by month, everything is just degrading, everything is just working less and less, and you want to do something about it, One Small Town is the thing to do. And it is, quite frankly, and you call me arrogant if you want to, there is no other initiative like One Small Town in the world. Over the last 20 years, I've engaged with countless what's often called intentional communities, which includes some of the well-known so-called communities that I'm not going to mention by name because I don't want to slander them, and even the kibbutzes in Israel. And every single one of them is a disaster. Everyone has failed us. Not one of them is an example to the world what we should be doing. And that's why we're not doing it. So what I've done with One Small Town is taken all the lessons from why have those intentional communities failed, including personal friends that started trying to start these on farms and beautiful farms with pieces of land and all this. They all end up in bickering, backstabbing, infighting, with a catastrophic breakdown, sometimes within months and sometimes within a few years. None of them have worked. One Small Town has taken almost 2 decades to put into place because we cannot fail. We have to succeed.
You don't sound like you're going to fail. There's a lot of determination there.
No, we're not failing. We're not failing.
You can't afford to. I mean, you simply can't afford to, because this is your life's work now, and that's the important thing. Before you leave us today, I always like to give, excuse me, a final word to our guests. We will obviously see you at the end of June and the beginning of July in the UK for 2 dates. Any chance that you'll be adding any more dates to that?
Well, that's open. Absolutely. That's why we've got, I think, I arrive a few days before the 29th of June. And then that week in between the 29th and the 5th, I'm open to any meetings or meeting with people in towns who want to have personal engagements with me. Please contact Julia, our UK ambassador, at uk@onesmalltown.org. That's Julia's email address, uk@onesmalltown.org, and try and organize a meeting. We could have other meetings in the evening, face-to-face, meet small groups. We can discuss strategy, whatever. I'm open to all of this. I'm coming there for, I think, 10 days. So I'm going to work as hard as I can to really plant some important seeds that I believe will grow into the first small town, as I call Cinderella small towns in the UK.
Love the sound of that. Michael, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We truly appreciate it. Love to South Africa, which is presumably where you're talking to us from. And take good care of yourself. And we look forward to seeing you when you come to the UK. And we will bring you back on Wake Up. When you're in the UK, if we get an opportunity to, which I very much hope we do, everybody, Michael Tellinger. Wonderful to have you with us today, Michael.
Thank you, Sonia. Great talking to you.
You too.